We're live.
Here we go.
Fired up, footballers.
Yeah. Fired up, footballers. Well, how's it going, Jigs? How are you? How'd you have a good holidays?
Yeah. I just started writing like the moment after I was done with Boxing Day. I just started writing.
Oh my God, I love this time of year with Premier League.
Boxing
right?
Day.
I mean, you got Boxing Day
Some
and
people don't know
today.
what it is.
There's so many games on. It's crazy. Tottenham lost. I mean, I love it. It's one of the best times of the year. But anyways.
Well, I mean, on Boxing Day they scored like 4 goals or something.
Yeah, and Liverpool beat Arsenal 5-1 today, which is crazy.
Yeah,
so
that was sick.
So, anyways, we'll get right into it. So, Fire did have one big transfer. Marcelo, this Brazilian center back that's coming from Sporting, a club in Portugal. He never really broke into the club, but he had a really good spell at Rio Ave. And it seems like he's, going to be a pretty good center back, in the MLS. And what do you think about that, James?
With Marcelo, he looks like the real deal. He might not have been playing at Sporting CP, but they've been having some weird financial troubles. They slapped a $40 million transfer, a transfer buyout clause on him, which nobody was ever going to be met. Apparently, he's worth about $3 million on transfer market, and we're getting him for about $500K. 50 cents on the dollar here.
29.
Not too bad, not too shit. In 29, he hasn't played really the last year and a half or so. But at Rio Ave, where he grew to prominence and was one of their better players, in fact, captained some matches. And you can find some of his interviews on YouTube if you do some sleuthing. And he's talking in Spanish for sure, or in Portuguese. I'm not sure because he is Brazilian.
Probably Portuguese.
Portuguese. It's got to be Portuguese.
And,
but anyways.
But he looks like a stand-up dude, even though he was investigated for match fixing.
That is strange. That is very strange.
With a match with Rio Ave.
Yeah, but what do you think about that, Jakes?
There's plenty of players who've been investigated for match fixing that had technically nothing to do with it.
Yeah. But what do you think about the signing?
I like it. I mean, I saw a lot of people were getting a bit optimistic about the season, saying that, we're finally starting to sign people. I still don't know yet. I think so did we get him on loan? I don't remember the specifics. Or is it Ojeda that we're getting on loan?
I believe he's going to be on loan to buy. But Marcelo, I think he's going to be fine. But what I think is going to be more important is who they have next to him. So,
yes.
I think that is what's going to be, matter most for the Chicago Fire. And you're right. They still have so many more guys to buy. I mean, they still have to buy maybe 2 new wingbacks or fullbacks, whatever you want to call them. Maybe a center attacking mid and some more depth and some more reserves. So
is Raheem Sterling maybe part of the left back plan?
No, not Raheem Sterling.
Not Raheem.
If we're going with a 5-man back line, which is something that absolutely kills an MLS if you have the right people, he is a left wing back, but he is not a left back.
Yeah. Just defensively, you don't really see it. He definitely looks more like an attacker to me. So.
Yeah, maybe not as defensive as you want. But what about Campos going forward? I mean, because is he going to be fighting for an offensive spot, or is he going to be trying to make his trade in the old Matt Polster spot, assuming Matt Polster signs for Rangers?
I think that Campos is one of those players that Pauno is trying to force into another position because he doesn't like him, or at least doesn't like him in a certain position.
Yeah.
I think that he is best served in an attacking position. I don't think he's a winger. He's a 10, or at least he can play in that 10 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do like Diego Campos, and I'm glad that he's back. But tying this back into Marcelo, I think we hit the nail on the head that it seems like he's going to be a decent enough player. It really matters who's next to him. And so who do we have here already? Lillard and Del Greco.
Del Greco's
who
not
else?
going to be playing.
So,
Del Greco is not a real person.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh man. So
he takes up an international slot.
Yeah, it's like they really could have used Jonathan Campbell, but apparently they said no. But yeah, again, just
or did Campbell
happens.
say no?
Or did Campbell say no, and he just didn't want to work out a deal with her? Because, I mean, look at his treatment under Pauno. He was not given the time when it was clearly it should have been his job to have. And he was coming back, as Jiggly noted on Twitter, coming back from a facial fracture, right?
I didn't mention that. That was somebody else.
Oh, that was maybe GHCP or some. Somebody's mentioned that, but
had a job.
But we forgot about that he's coming back from basically maybe a pretty severe injury, but he came back pretty quickly, and he might have had the starting job going into the season, but after that injury in preseason, he got knocked out of contention, and all of a sudden we see Brandon Vincent and Schweinsteiger somehow ahead of the depth chart than him, and Lillard never getting a sniff either after his first 2 games.
It's once again, it has to do with Pano. It has something to do with Pano here. I mean,
That's what it smells like.
I don't think he's a bad coach, but he has a lot of learning to do as a coach with not giving up on players. We saw earlier in this season, Daniel Johnson had his chance, and he gave him basically 1 game, and after that game, he said, "No, you're done. You're out of here now." And he didn't see. I don't even think he saw the 18.
Short leash. It's hard to play soccer when you have a short leash, you know? You have to be allowed to make mistakes. And as soon as you know, if you make a few mistakes, coach wants to yank you. I mean, you know, just in between the years, it gets hard to play.
And then you don't see the field again?
Well, and I think you said it. It stinks that, you know, we wasted time. You know, in a year we knew we weren't really going to go anywhere. We could have used those minutes, that playing time, get more tape on Lillard and Jonathan Campbell, and see if they really could play, you know, in this league. And instead of moving Brandon Vincent and stunning him and bringing Boston Schweinsteiger and trying to possess out of the back. I mean, so the center backs is really important. It's not done yet. We'll see who else he brings in. There's also rumors of this Martin Ojeda guy. What do you know about him, Jigs?
I know nothing.
You know nothing?
He's coming from Racing Club, but he also, Racing Club or whatever.
Yeah, Racing.
But I haven't really heard anything good about him.
Really?
I haven't heard anything bad either. I just heard nothing.
Well, to see that he's, you know, rated about $400K on MLS transfer market, which seems about the going rate for a lot of, you know, decent MLS wingers. You know, between $400 to $800K, right there in that transfer market price. But at the same time, to see that he has a transfer clause, that they could buy a $4 million 70% transfer clause on this guy. They expected to go it up that much, but he's 20 years old, so he has some potential according to some. But is this a paper tiger, or is this a legit, you know, maybe the next El Myron, but in the left back role?
You know, he's 20. He's so young, and I did YouTube scout him, you know, for whatever that is worth. And so he never really produced with Rio Plate, correct? That's where it is, or River Plate, correct?
Plate or Racing.
Oh, Racing Club, excuse me. But he never really produced there, and he had some time to play. But at the team he was at before, I believe in the league below, he produced. And I watched some of those goals on YouTube, and he was dynamic. He was running at people and, you know, shooting and scoring some amazing goals. So he's 20 years old. So, again, this is what you want to see from Nelson Rodriguez, though. He signed a few Central Americans. Now he signed a South American. I mean, this is what the fans have been asking for, you know, sign some, you know, players other than these random people that you're finding in Europe. So,
it's still an international slot, though. And
yes,
we're using an international slot on a position that we could be using domestic and saving those international slots for someone.
Well, you might be able to make money on this guy. I think that's what the thought is, and that's a step up. And I'm not usually we usually don't defend Nelson, but again, he's doing what the fans are asking for, and maybe this guy works out and they sell him.
You got to definitely start making the moves into smarter transfers. A lot of these transfers in old style of MLS were like with no thought to transferring them on.
Yeah, you get no value out of them when you try to get rid of them.
You get the Zlatans, the Rooneys. But nowadays in MLS, finally it's starting to shed that image of just the retirement league, starting to become more of the selling league, like what's his face, the writer really wants. Tenorio really wants it to be, and Ed Garber's finally the MLS head is starting to finally, you know,
you saw Tyler
tout.
Adams, the Canadian that just went, what's his name?
Alphonso Davies,
Mizaga a few years ago. So you're starting to see some of these guys go. Kyle Larin. So I think that's good, and I don't think Almiron or Martinez have sold, correct? They haven't been sold, correct?
Not quite yet.
But they're rumored that they're gone. But I mean, it's going to be a selling league. It looks like it.
I got something interesting on Ojeda. So FIFA rates him as an 80 potential, which is very interesting. So he's according
because he's Argentinian. That's just sort of what.
There are a lot of Argentinians with potential, but he's definitely been tabbed with, you know, having some sort of talent. He's still young, 20 years old. Are we getting a Diego Dalot over here, but on the left side?
Well, he's more of a winger, Jamesy.
FIFA has him as a left mid, but Transfer Market shows him playing all three positions: left mid, left back.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It sounds like we're all optimistic on him, but again, in terms of the roster construction, they're still lacking so many parts. This isn't a done deal, correct?
This is a good idea.
Jigs, this guy's not a done deal, correct?
No.
This is a rumor. This is still a rumor, correct?
What?
It's still a rumor, correct?
Yeah, it's still technically a rumor.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
There's been mentions of it in places other than from Chicago people, so that usually means interesting things.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. So maybe we get him.
Other teams entered the bidding process as well.
But at least they finally brought in a center back. Again, they still need a few new fullbacks, especially with Gutman and Polster being yanked by Rangers. So it's like, ooh.
But let's talk about that, because it doesn't seem like that's a for sure deal yet with Rangers offering these guys deals. But is it in their best interest to take it? Is Gutman going to get? When he goes to the Fire, he's going to have a for sure starting position at that left back side, basically, you'd think, versus the uphill climb against, a couple talented guys over in Scotland.
I've heard from some people who talk to people who follow the Scottish Premier League and are like Rangers fans and are like involved with Rangers. Like one of them apparently is like a beat guy, sort of like Guillermo is, and they say that they really like both Gutman and Polster. Both of them seem to look like they're going to be getting offers. The only question is work permits. I think if they get the offer, Polster's absolutely going to take it because he's been looking at Europe for a while. And Gutman, I don't know if he wants to play for the Fire.
Yeah, that's the rumor as well. But gosh, so it seems like they're going to get picked up by these guys. A big-time club in Irish League football, correct?
Scottish.
No, I think
Scottish.
It's Scottish.
Yeah,
so excuse me.
Rangers.
Yeah, it's Celtic.
It's
Excuse me. It's a decent league and it's a big move for them. And yeah, it seems like they want to get away from the Fire, and it's a bummer because Matt Polster was so good. I mean, when he was healthy, he was very good. He was one of the best players on the pitch, and you lose him. Gutman never steps on the field for the men in red, so it is kind of disappointing. But that's two glaring holes that Nelson needs to fill, because I don't think Raheem Edwards is a true outright left back. Like we said, he can get away being a left wing back, and then the right back situation, who do they have? Diego Campos, or they let Drew Connor go for nothing. I mean, who else do they have for outside back? Oh, Corrales.
We don't.
So it's a big hole.
I think going into this offseason, I think I specifically said we have absolutely no backline because we lost pretty much everyone. The only two players that we have signed right now, well, three players, I guess, if we count Del Greco, signed right now can play on the back line, or at least are meant for the back line, and that is, as I said, Del Greco, Lillard, and this new guy, Marcelo. We have no back line.
You know what's crazy? So it's like some of these guys randomly retire. We might have three guys go to Europe with Georgie. I know Georgie wants to go to Europe, correct, Jigs?
Yes.
So it's like some of these guys randomly retire, and these guys just go off to Europe, and an already decimated roster becomes even more desolate. So it's like, oh my God.
And then Nelson has the gumption to not re-sign Campbell and not pick up the option, or Drew Connor.
It's really interesting that we traded him to Seattle, because that is who we traded Jovan Jones to get the pick for Campbell.
Correct. Wow. That's where we got the Campbell in the first place. Yeah. And we get a 4th round pick back for him, which is, we'll get into the draft here in a little bit
nothing.
here. We'll see if there's any use for that.
4th round picks are nothing.
But real quick, we're missing one issue here because we're missing the forest for the trees here. What Nelson's inability to foresee the value in these guys is the bigger issue. To not get Polster re-signed to an option contract last year, so he has him locked up for this year, or Gutman in years past to not make a lucrative enough deal to get this guy to quit college and to come right out of the Fire last season.
Yeah.
At this point, right now, though, there's two different things. Of course, there's always the possibility that Nelson just lowballed him because Nelson is an idiot. But there's also the whole thing of the academy being torn apart, not caring about the academy, moving away people who were important to the academy, and just generally dismissing the academy as being meaningless.
Yeah. So, yeah, that stinks. That's really bad to hear. And it doesn't make sense because you look at European leagues and they sign these kids at 16, 15, even younger sometimes to contracts. So it's like they got to sign these kids when they're younger or something. I mean, or get them younger before they go to college, or you can't just wait to the last minute till he's like an All-American or the best player in the college. So it's just.
You can't wait that long. You got to be ahead of the game. Really, it's coming down that there's too many indicators here of a totally rotten relationship between the academy and the club itself.
I believe you were talking about signing young guys. I think we've signed specifically two players, either in the middle of college or before college, and that's Colin Fernandez. We already knew about him. And Victor Pineda.
Yeah.
Didn't we do him dirty?
A few times.
Victor Pineda,
nice.
yeah, he had horrible injury issues, was never able to play, and that's kind of a reason why a lot of people think that Mauricio may not want to sign for the Fire. So I don't know how many top prospects we are going to lose because of our inability to treat people well.
Yeah, it doesn't seem hard. It doesn't seem hard to do. It doesn't make sense. Everyone else brings up their homegrowns. It doesn't make sense. Anyways, I want to move on to one thing real quick about Johan.
One of the Fire's homegrowns, potential homegrowns, is moving over to Europe. He's like a 16-year-old. He's behind Damian Las, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the country, a 17-year-old who plays for the Fire Academy. And the Fire Academy got another studly goalkeeper that's going across the pond already and is just fleeing. I'm hearing. I forget his name.
I don't remember it either, but I do remember seeing something about going. I don't know, because it's definitely, there's something changing with MLS and American young players, because homegrown deals are not very good for players.
No, they're not lucrative enough.
They're not good. And that's something that, as I said, the possibility of lowballing government, it's not just the max amount of a homegrown contract isn't very much, and so if you go lower than that, you are telling that player you are not our top prospect, even though we don't have he is our top prospect. We don't have any other major prospects that we can bring in right now.
I think also you have a number of factors. There's a number of factors here in the MLS for certain clubs, the Fire exclusively, because you don't have that avenue from USL team to first team. You have clubs that they make agreements with that are tacit, where they send their guys and they don't play them, but they don't have a legit RB like a Red Bull 2 or a Whitecaps 2 to send these guys so they can get for sure playing time in the style that the coach wants them to play in. It doesn't make sense. The system here is not built for success.
That's just completely true. I mean, there's not much more that you can put into it. I could go on and on about all the different specific things that Nelson has done horribly, but that would take an entire another episode, and I think we've done it before. That just would take too long, but we're trash.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to break into what I have on the screen here real quick. Johan Kapelov. I don't know if you've seen this, Jigs, but just looking on Twitter, it looks like people still have hope that we might bring Johan Kapelov back, and that would be awesome, but I just have a hard time believing in that.
It's possible.
But it would be amazing if we brought him back. I mean, I think that would really shore it up with him and Marcelo.
Even though they'd be short.
Again, but who knows if he's really coming back. So what do you guys think about that?
I believe the rumor about Kapelhoff coming back is that he is signing a contract specifically so that he could be traded.
What? That doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah, but if you're in a house and stuff.
Where's a more attractive destination in America than Illinois, than Chicago? I guess you got LA and New York and Orlando.
It's kind of like with Jonathan Campbell's, they declined his contract, but they allowed him to pick where he wanted to be traded to.
Seattle.
Kapelov, I don't think he wants to stay here anymore at this point, and he just wants to have some sort of agency into where he can go within MLS.
So it's interesting that we think that he wants to stay in MLS, that he's not interested in going back to Europe. He's like, I already got my green card. I'm an established MLS player, and I could probably get paid. So maybe that's what he's thinking, and he's going to be a first teamer wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, he played at Ajax Youth, FC Groningen for a long time. Chicago Fire bought him from a mill, and
It'd be a shame to lose this guy.
He was a good player. He was a really good player. Different type of center back that every team should have. That athletic guy that is just can win everything. But who knows? Who knows if he's coming back? And Nelson's gonna have to at least sign 2 more center backs, don't you think? I mean, you're gonna have to at least sign 1 more starter, 1 more depth guy. Hopefully 2 guys that can challenge for a starting spot. So, hopefully Cap comes back.
We need to sign everyone. Everything.
Yep. Really, when it comes down to Cap, I wonder if the relationship with Pano is just fractured to such a degree that he's like, I'm not coming back if Pano's coming back. Because
definitely there's got to be some sort of thing going on with that. It just doesn't seem like there's a healthy relationship in that locker room. And I just mentioned this, and I think I really want to get into this just a little bit, because we were talking about John Paul Sartre.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. You're.
So he's an existentialist philosopher. The idea that he brought up that I think would be great to bring up here with the Fire is the idea of existence before essence. Essence is essentially a plan. That is a plan, and in a soccer scenario, it is the plan to create a team around a certain idea of, we want to be this sort of attacking team, we want to be this sort of team, and existence is just that it's there. Existence before essence basically means we are putting this team together and not thinking about a plan beforehand. It doesn't look like we have a plan, and it doesn't look like we're going to have a plan going into this season. We're just going to have a bunch of players standing around on the pitch.
And you know what's crazy is the MLS, I think it's a league that you probably can get away with that. I mean, look at their 2017 season that they made the playoffs, correct? Right?
Well, I mean,
and that team was just like, hey, we'll take this player, we'll take this player, we'll take this player, and
Juninho.
There really didn't seem like there was a plan, and they made it into the playoffs. So I mean, you could get away with that, but But I agree with you that they're lacking, that straight, that tangible idea of what type of football they want to play. So we'll see. What else do we have on tap here?
What about Joao Mira possibly thinking about coming back?
I think he wants to come back, and I don't know if the Fire want him back. And not in terms of they don't think he's good, just in terms of the Fire being the Fire. I don't know if Nelson's going to bring him back.
These relationships with the Fire are just so weird. It's just it's like negative, positive, weird. They feel an affinity for the fans and certain other parts of the aspects of the club.
I feel like the thing that should have been the biggest warning sign at the beginning of Nelson signing with the Fire is when he insulted Eric Winalda. That was the first moment, and that was the moment that we should have all gone, this is a bad idea.
We should have fired him right then and there. He should have been fired.
Oh, man.
He said he dyslexia or something. Made fun of his dyslexia.
I mentioned this earlier. Doesn't Pano not have a contract yet? Isn't that still expired? Right. So I mean,
what's going on there? So I mean, the season's coming.
I think they sign him again, and I think I said this before. At this point, Pano's stuck with Nelson. Pano's legacy, I guess, is tied with Nelson's for this team. They've got to try to stick it out some way until both of them are fired.
Yeah, so I think Nelson is going to acquire some more players, but he has to pull the trigger. He's known for sticking to his evaluation, so we'll see Memo Ochoa. I mean, it's always a rumor that we all want to hear, but
they're looking to salvage this project, that's for sure.
They definitely have to inject some talent into this club.
Are they only going to slap Band-Aids and duct tape over things, or are they going to actually bring in talent?
Marcelo's 29, so
Marcelo is one that you could have for 3-4 years. That's a good piece.
Well, it doesn't look like we. So I think I also, this is another thing I wrote about for like a fake hockey league, but it's the idea of a rebuild and how you can still suck and not be in a rebuild. if you believe that you can win this season or you can win just next season, you have to commit. And this team is refusing to commit to a rebuild. I think that's until Nelson officially says, fine, we're going to move away all of our older players and bring in more younger players. No, instead we're doing the opposite. We're sending out younger players and bringing in older players, and we keep doing it. And he had a 4-year plan. Our second year, second year. Second year we looked really good, and we're in the 4th year now, and we look like we're back to square one, and even less than square one. But he's still pushing for a win right now.
We were definitely at square two. I'll say this for square two because we're not at square one or square zero because we have Schweinsteiger, Nikolic, Dax McCarty on the club. Where
that's his point, that they are
3 years ago. Yes, but we did not have that talent level 3 years ago when this project started. So if we're restarting this project with the current talent level, we're starting with a lot more in the cupboard, a lot more things available to use. But we also have a coach who's shown himself incapable of using what he's had already.
Yeah. So I understand what Jigs is saying, and I understand what you're saying. So it doesn't really make sense that they let a lot of those guys walk, and now they have to acquire like almost 10 guys, right? I mean, that's a lot of guys. That's a lot of free agents to bring in. That's a lot of new faces. So again, they have to bring in 2 new fullbacks, maybe 2 new center backs, maybe a cam. But if you bring in a cam, I mean, does Schweinsteiger, Georgie, and McCarty play? Mm-hmm. If you bring in a cam, I don't know. I mean, so one of those guys, all 3 of those guys I just said have to play. It looks like they're starting to shore up the attacking options, but the back 4 needs to be adjusted, and they need a goalkeeper because I don't think Richard or Cleveland is the answer. So still a lot of guys that need to be acquired.
And there's still that international slot dilemma. Now we have like 12 guys who require an international slot, and like 3 or 4 of them aren't even deserving of a roster spot in MLS when we really look at it, but yet here they are. And Fire don't really have a direct route to send them to offload them and to offload that international slot charge.
Yep.
I just don't see anything out of this season. I don't know how all of these players can even play. I don't know if we're going to be able to get anybody because of the ruined relationships that Nelson has left behind him. It's just bad.
He's burning bridges a lot of places. I mean, the fact that he didn't bring in Ronaldo to be his technical director, he probably thought about it, but then, this is like, I'm the smartest guy in the room, and I want to be the one in control here. And I'm starting to wonder if this guy just has not even wonder, we've said this guy has way too many hats. He has to juggle signing people, bringing in Pano. He can't even think about signing a different coach because he doesn't have the main asset that he needs because he has so many jobs. Time. He has not enough time to do the things that this club needs him to do. And because he's so light for time and trying to do so many things, this club is just doomed to suffer until he, better doles out some jobs.
And he creates even more problems for himself by overreacting and other things. I think that I keep using a lot of references in order to explain my positions, but I think I made that tweet. There's a quote from Avatar, Last Airbender, where your future will be full of suffering, most of it self-inflicted.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
With the Fire. Speaking of self-inflicted, I think it's about time we get into the draft.
Yeah, wait. Before we get into Jig's draft analysis, big news. Still a rumor, I believe. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but Christian Pulisic is might be headed to Chelsea. So that's crazy. It's crazy because they have Willian, who I think is like 30. They have Pedro, who's like 31. They have Eden Hazard. So you wonder if there's enough playing time there. But they are older players. But 50 mil. I mean, so that they are buying this guy for a lot of money. But Christian Pulisic on the way to Chelsea.
I know Jiggly's not the biggest EPL fan, but I'll talk about it real quick.
Once about how the Premier League for me is sort of like watching a TV show that my sister watches. It's like I've seen it before. I know all the characters.
I know how it ends.
I love the Prem. I love EPL.
Liverpool's going to win it this year, it seems.
Liverpool. Man City dropped 2 in a row.
I actually think this is a mistake for Pulisic because Chelsea is known for stockpiling talent. But here's the thing. They're putting a lot – if they're spending $50 million on this kid, that means that you think he's going to see some playing time. But Chelsea, Man City, those two clubs are very notorious for stockpiling talent in their loan systems, and then
I
just
don't think he's going to be loaned, but again, like I said, there's Willian, Pedro, and
No, he's
Hazard.
definitely not going to be loaned.
So,
don't
rumor is
expect
Hazard.
$50 million.
Rumor is Hazard's leaving, correct? So, anyways, we'll get off EPL, but
If he's starting for Dortmund, he's going to start for Chelsea. That's just
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Jigs, where do you want
Pull
to?
up Jig's article right here.
I don't know where it is here.
Let's break into the. You could just start on Twitter. So let's start with the. So the draft is what, in a few weeks here in Chicago.
Jiggly,
Yes.
where can I find it? Is it on MLS Multiplex?
Correct.
yes. Now
Pardon?
I am now with MLS Multiplex.
Yes. Check out MLS Multiplex here for some Jiggly articles. He's just started writing for them again, I believe. Again, or for the first time?
For the first time.
Nice. But he's got a couple articles that he's got planned. I know he's got some, and one of this is a big one. That's his initial article talking about.
Is this you, Andrew? It's not you.
That's not
No.
him. Go with John Carrillo III.
It's the. I'm pointing at it on my screen.
Boom. Okay.
Jigs, here you go.
Here we are. So,
Congrats, man.
Jeffrey,
This is
here's what
cool.
I'd like you to do, though. Scroll down to the very first player and just let's start pulling up pictures of these players.
Sure.
Unless we got them. Unless Jigs already got him right there.
Let's go.
Jimmy Hague, the first person on the list. And Michigan State. Doesn't the Fire have Sierkowski also from Michigan State?
Yeah, Sierkowski. He is in the combine. He is going to be in the draft because the Fire decided not to offer him a contract either because Nelson's valuations.
I've heard that he did not rate Gutman.
Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame to let that guy just walk. But so yeah, Jigs, what do you know about Jimmy Hague or Rashid Nuhu?
Well, Haag, I believe, like as I said, I've done a lot of research, but probably not enough to truly give a good explanation.
So who's your
he
favorite
played
out of these
against
keepers
some
then?
some great teams there. I mean, I don't think any of these players are first round worthy, but definitely in the second round, I'd love to get someone like Haag or especially maybe even James Pyle.
We could talk about their schools real quick. Michigan State definitely has some talent.
Sorry, I'm just
You're
scrolling.
moving things.
My bad.
University of
Yeah.
North Carolina. I know that's where Pineda is over, I believe. Mauricio Pineda. So maybe Pyle. There's some connection there with Pineda.
And the big thing with them isn't just what team they play for, but it's about their competition and who they play against. While Michigan State isn't exactly the best or one of the best, they play against Indiana and Maryland every year, sometimes twice a year.
Mhm.
So they're going to be going up against some of the best offenses in the college game. North Carolina, they're one of the best teams, so they're going to also be going up against the best teams in college.
Louisville, aren't they pretty decent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that North Carolina might be
Let's
playing
break
them.
into the defenders.
So
here.
Hague and Pyle are some interesting shots there.
Jigs, who are your
Haag.
defenders to
watch.
in this draft?
If Nelson should pick one, if we're not getting Pineda.
Okay, if we can get him, because I think he's probably going to go even earlier than our pick, Callum Montgomery.
Callum Montgomery?
He's a Canadian player, but he has just such an amazing track record with he has. I wrote it down in the article. I don't have it in front of me, but he has a massive amount of shutouts throughout his entire college career.
30 shutouts, 14 of which from the past season.
Yeah, a lot of them were this past season. He is only improving. He has one of the best attacking records for some strange reason out of all the defenders that are in the combine. He has the most shots on goal for some reason, even though he's a center back.
That's
I really
interesting.
would love to have him.
This guy sounds talented. Not when you said that, but he's also at North Carolina, Charlotte. I think he's going against a little bit lesser talent, isn't he?
Yes, of course.
Well, look at this guy, Reese Buckmaster.
That's the next Fire homegrown potential, right?
I think
Buckmaster.
I mentioned him to my dad because he knows more about the specific guys who are in the academy, and he could have been a homegrown player, but I don't quite know if it was that we didn't claim him or if we just didn't offer him.
Who is this again, Jigs? I'm sorry.
Reese Buckmaster.
Oh, Reese Buckmaster. Okay.
Go on.
I think that's really with Reese Buckmaster. The big thing for him is that he was playing on the other side of Andrew Gutman, and he isn't exactly a defender. He is originally an attacking player. He was a winger, and Indiana just had better wingers than him, so they moved him back to right wing back, and he did pretty damn good there.
And he excelled, apparently, almost possibly more well than those wingers.
So are
But
are those your two favorite defenders in the draft?
Yeah,
I think
those. Well, I mean, Buckmaster, I wouldn't take him with an early pick. I'd wait a while.
maybe that fourth
There's
rounder.
definitely going to be teams sleeping on him.
Someone asked Jigs, who do you think the Fire will select at number 5?
I think that we're going to do something dumb, and I think we're going to go with Camden Ridley.
Who was Ridley? So we just came across
Camden
him.
Riley.
Camden Riley. So he looks like he's a
Camden
midfielder.
Riley, yeah.
He is a midfielder. He is an exact clone of Dax McCarty.
Oh my God, that's great.
But wait-
so we're gonna have 3 of these guys.
But wait-
We're going to have 3 Dax McCartys.
But wait, what about Mo Adams? Why would we think?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think we're going to do something stupid, and we're going to go with him.
Mm-hmm. So Camden Riley's right now.
He's a CDM type, Dax McCarty. Not to say that he's not a good player, but just
He's slightly more attacking. He's more like Brant Bronico, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have someone who looks like Dax McCarty and is playing like Brant Bronico.
Okay, yeah. So maybe he's a good player if you do go there. Who else? What other midfielders do you like?
Someone who I think that we should be getting, probably Joey Piaczek.
There you have.
That's how I can pronounce it, Piaczek?
Sure.
Yeah, it looks like it. Piaczek or Piaczek.
Yeah, he's a 10. He can pass.
Nice. But he's also a college player, and
He's playing in the MAC.
some of those college players just don't get the respect from MLS coaches.
Yeah, exactly. And that's extremely true, and especially true with Pauno, the way he treats his first-round picks. Honestly,
Vaquero.
if anything, I think the best option for the Fire right now is to trade away their first-round pick for something like an international slot or a player.
You know what? That actually probably has to be the play with them sitting on like 12 international players and not having a USL team, which is biting them in the butt in 2 places. It bites them in the butt that they can't offload some of these mistakes that they make for players that aren't talented, and it also
Offloading mistakes.
and they also don't have an avenue for when they sign to sign the Sierakowskis and the Reese Buckmasters, because if you had an avenue for those guys, then they'd be in a position to sign them and get playing time and potentially succeed with the club. But the Fire aren't set up for that.
There's definitely different players in this draft that I think could be developed into great players if you put them in the USL and you give them the right regimen. If you give them to a USL team that's trying to win, they might not get as much of an opportunity to develop.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, if the team's trying to win, they're not going to be putting in the young players. They're going to be putting in their best players.
True. Yeah, but that's the thing about with these coaches and you're playing. You could work yourself into the team sometimes.
Well, yeah. Imagine just before they go off to college, they just go play in this younger Chicago Fire team, and they're still making some coin, making some money, and that's what they're doing and focusing on. So, there's an avenue there. So, anyways, breaking into the forwards, Jigs. Who do you like in this class, in this field?
I'm looking at these stats here really quick. Yeah, Shinya Shiki, he's the biggest question mark because he didn't go up against very good competition, and he was blanked out whenever he went up against a good team. But he has so many goals this past season. He has 51 goals throughout his entire college career.
That's a lot.
That's impressive.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Once again, he was blanked out against teams like, I think it was North Carolina he played against.
Well, I mean, sometimes, I never watch the games, but that doesn't necessarily reflect, maybe that just the team struggled that day or something. But no, that's definitely a red flag as well. I'm just playing devil's advocate for both sides of the coin. But nonetheless, that's a lot of goals. So is Jigs, is this guy going to go like 1 or 2, or who's going to go 1 and 2 in this draft?
It's probably going to be some Generation Adidas players, but they haven't released the list yet, so I don't know who those players are going to be.
Oh, wow.
But it's probably going to be Generation Adidas.
I'm really curious with with this being a Brazilian striker. And quite a few of these talents being somewhat foreign or international slot takers. It's like the Fire aren't in a position to take those guys, but maybe
No,
other
we're
teams
not.
are.
There's a guy, Janos Loeb, that I thought he might be really interesting to see. But the thing is he's going to take up an international slot. If we're going to take anybody who's a forward in this draft, I think it would probably be Sierkowski. And I don't know, but I think Mbaka Thiam might have a green card. He might. He's from Senegal, but he might have a green card.
That would be huge. And really, I mean, the Fire have to be looking.
Sierkowski.
The Fire have to be looking at those types of moves because they're just overloaded, and that's really got to be putting Nelson in a hard place too.
Jigs, what's the lowdown on Sierkowski? Isn't he one of our homegrowns as well?
Yeah, he was supposed to be a homegrown player, and apparently we just didn't offer him anything, which is completely dumb, especially considering where we are with how many players we have on the team and the lack of depth we have at the forward position. I just don't know what we're doing anymore, and it's distressing.
It doesn't make sense. You know, again, if there's no avenue to the MLS, why are these homegrowns going to stick around when there's other avenues that are appearing to them now? So, I mean, why are they going to wait around unless you get these guys young enough? But, you know, you need to sign a guy like Sierkowski because you don't have any depth. And why not have some of those guys that want to fight and earn their spot and grew up with the club? So, I mean, you know, the crust means a little bit more to them. So, I mean, why not sign these guys and reward these guys? It doesn't really make sense, but I don't know.
We got a comment here. Thanks for answering the big question. But now, can you explain the rules with Gutman? Can the Fire decline his Rangers offer? I don't believe they can.
No. He was in the Fire's academy, but they have no control over him, pretty much.
None, and they would get no reimbursement.
They have
there's
his
no reimbursement,
rights
Jakes?
in MLS, but he could go anywhere else if he wants to.
Correct. Do the Fire get money if he signs with the Rangers? No, they get nothing.
No.
And same thing with Matt Polster. Both of those guys were out of contract. They are kind of restricted free agents in the MLS sense, but they're unrestricted free agents in the international world sense. This is where the MLS system is highly flawed, in my opinion. It's just like, how can it really compete in the world when it's just not playing by the world's rules?
Yeah, it's definitely.
And then you get pilfered and you get taken advantage of.
So what? What's his name?
angry.
Tosun. No, Yotun just sold from Orlando City back to, gosh, I think some Chile team.
No, Mexico.
No, he's going to Mexico.
Mexico team.
For
$3-4 million, and it's so crazy that the MLS gets, or no, the club only gets like $700K of that.
$750K
So that's great. Like, how does that work?
to use.
But
Because MLS is a very close system league. I mean, people complain about it, but it also makes sure that the league doesn't fold. Although
Exactly.
we're at a point
Yes.
where it's maybe time to start letting loose a bit. I know I'm starting to get into like pro-rel conspiracy theory stuff, but
yeah,
we're at a point where we can start making gradual changes.
yeah, we'll see. They might have to. But again, how does that work when you get people pay these monstrous entry fees? And then if you open it up, I don't know how that works, but yeah, we don't have to get into the pro-rel talk, but
the pro-rel,
I mean,
it doesn't really make sense to come to MLS because of those fees Jeffrey's talking about. The $150 million.
how would that work?
Unless that's the buy-in fee to get into MLS 1 and MLS 2. Maybe you have like a closed system league there, but really, that's what makes the international system so awesome, that people can go play 10th division soccer like Jamie Vardy and have an avenue to the freaking Premier League.
Imagine transfers.
Well, the reason why those leagues have it that way is because they were set up so goddamn long ago, like
True.
1890s, that it's kind of just filtered its way through. MLS was created for the 1994 World Cup, or at least after it. So it's not exactly something that it was built a long time ago and it had that structures already kind of like slowly pieceworked into place. We're just throwing it in right now and saying, this is a big league, please watch it.
Yeah,
We got
absolutely.
Buzz on. Please watch it.
Yeah, we'll see.
But
Anything else?
We got Echeverry, please watch it.
MLS really needs to
Memo
make
Ochoa.
some big changes going forward because their TV deal's coming up here in 2022. You got a floundering club in Chicago who's crying out for relevance, and other clubs that are that are doing pretty decent, and there's some power clubs that are doing fantastic and pushing the league forward, but then you got a lot of owners that aren't ponying up, aren't making the moves necessary. But then you do have other clubs that are
hopefully
building
going to change for the Fire.
facilities.
I think that at the draft, we're going to see around the draft, we're going to see some sort of announcement, especially since it's in Chicago. There has to be an announcement of a sale. I don't think Mansueto's just going to sit around for another year.
Well, and then think about the other local sports teams in towns, the Bulls, Blackhawks, and White Sox getting together and getting their own sports radio cable channel or something like that. And the Cubs are supposed to be only doing
Well,
their
the Cubs
own
do their own
thing.
thing.
And then the Fire don't, they're always left out. So, gosh, and if the Cubs do, if the Ricketts do acquire a USL team, that could fill some dead space for their Cubs channel, and then it leaves the Fire out again. So that's just me speculating.
We're talking about making affiliations with other teams in Chicago. I know the Red Stars made an affiliation with the other two women's sports teams in Chicago, with the Sky and I think it's the Chicago Bandits, the softball team.
Oh wow!
But
Yeah, I believe that's right.
like every single other team in Chicago is like working together, except for the Cubs. But the Cubs are big enough on their own that they could do it.
Yeah.
I think the Cubs work with the Bears sometimes on stuff.
Yep.
So really, it's just the biggest thing here is the Fire don't want to play nice with anyone.
Well, here's the big difference between all those owners and the Fire's owner. All those owners
Visible.
live in Chicago or in Illinois to some degree.
McCaskey's living? Yeah, I think McCaskey still lives in Chicago.
All of them. All of them
Well,
are
maybe
highly
Forest,
invested
maybe.
and
Maybe
highly
Forest.
visible in Chicago. We haven't seen Hotman. We've seen a little Mansueto, but we really haven't seen a lot of Mansueto. I mean,
We haven't really seen any Mansueto.
We've seen
All
pictures.
we know is that he is some sort of shadowy driving force behind the small good changes that we've seen recently.
right.
Being at the Tribune Tower, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think we all agree that the Fire got to produce. I mean, this is a big year for them. I mean, they have to
I don't think
they
they
have
can
to put a
produce
good product on the pitch, because I mean they're losing fans, and you never know what's going to be on the horizon with this USL team, and you just never know. So I mean, this is a big year. If they need to attract fans, they need to have a good season. They need to turn it around. They really do.
Here's the thing we're missing about the USL team. Garber has already said it's not going to happen. So you have Daddy Warbucks of MLS saying, ain't going to happen on his watch. So there's a budding war here between USL and MLS potentially, and some, or, which means promotion relegation. Does it happen? I don't think so. Like you were saying, 28 teams, 32 teams, that's how many teams they want to bring in to the MLS eventually. That's not promotion relegation. For England, it's about 22 teams in the top flight, 22 teams, and then below them, 22 teams, and then 2-3 teams get promoted. They need to get there and they need to start playing the hardball the international way, because right now MLS is in a position where, we've been in this closed system for so long, the isolationist system, it's worked to grow them to this point. But right now, China is going to pass us by. Mexico, Liga MX is going to pass us by.
I was going to bring
Well,
up.
Anarchy has already been ahead of us for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I think you said it. Just look at what Liga MX has been producing, and the guys they've been constantly sending to Europe. And even when we play against them, we struggle. I know we beat them sometimes, but really, Mexico is probably the better squad. So, and they're growing. They still have some young guys that are up and coming. So, yeah, you look across, the way, and you see Mexico producing this young talent, and it's just like, and we're just not there.
And the other thing
But we got some questions. You want to read them?
But they were asking about what Garber was saying about USL. Well, Garber was talking about this a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, we got to figure out the Chicago situation. And the Chicago situation is very high on their list of priorities, especially with this 2022 TV deal coming in. If you don't have a market the size of Chicago on board, who is all watching Liga MX, but they would be watching.
From what I know, Garber has specifically told the Fire to step up.
Yeah.
And they've given them they're going to be giving them resources, hopefully.
Wow.
And as I said, Mansueto, he has the money, and I feel like he has the want to change things.
Yes.
It's all about whether Houtman's going to relinquish that 51%.
And what is he waiting
he's
for?
gonna step up and do something. And that's the other thing where I talked about this a little while earlier with my computer. I talked about this a little bit while earlier where it's not that Houtman hates the club. It's not that Houtman's trying to destroy the club. It's that he has consistently trusted the wrong people to do the job. Javier León basically used the Fire as a money laundering system for himself.
Wow.
He then trusted Frank Yallop to try to rebuild this team. Didn't work out. He before that he trusted Frank Lopez, which he did to a point, and then fired him. For some reason, that was so well Javier León.
Here's the thing:
Lopez is a good steward.
here's the thing: 49% is still a lot. It's only 2% more than Houtman. So this guy is invested in the club. He really is. So we'll see. Hopefully, we start seeing him have an impact. I mean.
But that's the thing. MLS is putting pressure on Fire to make moves. Here's the other thing, like I've said in the last podcast that maybe people didn't see, and Jiggly, maybe you don't know, but Fire are getting out of Bridgeview in the next 5 years. We can bank on that. You could take that to Vegas. Within 5 years, Fire are going to be out of Bridgeview and somewhere in Chicago, whether it's in Soldier Field or in that downtown complex, which looks really nice.
But isn't that only temporary?
Which one? What's temporary?
Michigan pop-up shop or something.
No, I'm talking about the field that they always talk about, the Ricketts Field.
Oh, okay.
That's not being built for USL team. We know that you don't build that big of a stadium.
It might not be built at all.
It might not be built at all.
They haven't started building.
Think about that. They might not be able to. But the reason that stalled is because Garber said, it's not happening under his watch.
Well, the reason it's stalled mostly is because of the Amazon thing, but whatever.
And the ironclad lease that they Amazon backed out.
Amazon HQ too.
They went
somewhere else.
Yeah, they went to Virginia, New York,
Chicago.
instead of Chicago, which affected the deal. But I really don't think it's going to affect too much of where the Fire are. The Fire have to be in the city of Chicago, and the MLS need to make that happen for MLS to start becoming more relevant in the world. I mean, that they have to. If MLS wants to go international, they need to have Chicago on board, and they don't.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean
seems like a Fire rebrand has got to be coming this year. If the Fire need to step up, the players and wins sell tickets, not logos. The Fire rebrand is definitely coming.
I don't know about that. I don't think they're going to do that. I think all they got to do is bring in some good players. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to put fans in the stadium.
I will stop watching soccer altogether and become a Cubs fan.
Well, we're not saying that they're going to get rid of the Fire name, but what I imagine is they're going to be like, we're making changes here to be a first-class club. We now are going to have the academy system. We're now going to have the facilities. We are now going to have the things that you guys have been saying we don't have. Rightfully so.
That's not a rebrand. That's just
coming in the next
improvement.
5 years. But is that too little, too late?
It is. It is. Well, for the future, no, it's not going to be too little, too late. But for right now, it is very hard. I mean, the other big thing about, comparing Chicago's youth training facilities to Atlanta's is Atlanta has a ton of space around it. Like, you can build places. Chicago land is very hard to come by.
True.
Yeah. It's tight quarters.
And you got to grease somebody's pockets.
But, I mean,
like in New York.
I think in the that a lot of that stuff we just mentioned is going to take years to develop. I mean, but at least for this year, all they have to do. I mean, look in 2017, the stadium was relatively filled with acquiring Schweinsteiger and winning some games and being a playoff team. So I think if you build it, they will come. So I mean, just put together a good product on the pitch. But again, we talked about this earlier. That means they have to acquire 8, 9, 10 players, some of those ranging from starters, subs to reserves, and that's just a lot of turnover. And who knows if Pauno can handle that or if he'll be back. So it's a lot of questioning.
Possible for this team to do anything.
No. I know Jiggly's resigned to a bit of nihilism for this year, and I'm kind of in the same boat.
I'm going to be optimistic. I said this earlier. Think about the 2017 season. They kind of just acquired talent and a lot of turnover that year again, and they made it in the playoffs, and they just kind of faded at the end of the year. So you can do that. It's not sustainable. Like, look what happened the next year. We just crashed and burned. So, I mean, if they do acquire some talent, and like we said, Nelson might be pressed to do so this year. He has to perform. So maybe they do acquire and hit on all these guys like Ryan Pace did this year, and maybe they can make the playoffs. So I am optimistic, just because I think I have to be.
The biggest difference The biggest difference is that the faith in your coach is failing, and you're bringing that same coach back. And so really, the coach is now in a position where he has to win back supporters and his team. He's facing an uphill battle. And here's the thing. He can do it. It can be done. Pano can win us back with some wins, stacking, and starting to play some more consistent soccer and having some actual tactics, not being that tournament coach week to week, and having some consistency. But that's an uphill battle. And if we don't see it, Pano's got to go sooner than later.
Yeah, he's got
you
one more year.
mentioned a comparison to Ryan Pace about what's going on here, and Pace had been working on a rebuild for the past couple of seasons. This would basically be like if the Bears had this previous season traded away Trubisky and
it's like the Bulls.
Defense.
This is like the Bulls. This is the Bulls story.
This is the Bulls.
This is the Bulls.
And
it's definitely more the Bulls.
I don't even think they think that they can win right now.
No.
So it's really about like the Fire are diluted right now.
Yeah, and so in between the years, and confidence is everything. I mean, look at Man City. They dropped 2 games in a row. They got spooked one game, and then the next game they lost a little confidence. Liverpool overtook them, and you could definitely see how in between the years affects players. I mean, look at Liverpool beating Arsenal 5-1. Take a look at Man City losing 2 games in a row to teams that they should beat. So
Tottenham lost
Tottenham lost today too. So it's just it's crazy in between the years, and like we said this on other episodes, he definitely didn't inspire confidence in the lads, with his tactics and merry-go-round of players and people having short leashes, and you could see his press conferences, his frustration. And so you love the passion, but again, he didn't inspire much confidence, and I think that is what a manager has to do. We got a question here?
The roster. I think we have about maybe 8
guys on the roster.
What's our biggest need?
Our biggest need for our roster is to have a roster.
Yes.
Our biggest need?
And not wait till summer, wait to the January transfer window or the summer. Which one is it?
Well, we could quickly run through it. Center mid, center defensive mid. We got to be set between Dax McCarty, Schweinsteiger, Bronico, Georgi Mihailovic. We got Mo Adams.
The center of the park is completely fine, but I think they're going to do something stupid and start buying central midfielders for no reason.
I agree. I agree.
That's why I said bringing in the center attacking mid almost doesn't make much sense, because
Just have a different formation.
Georgi, Schweinsteiger, and Dax all have to play.
Georgi needs to play.
So all 3 of those guys have to play. So if you're bringing a Cam, how does that work? So it doesn't make sense.
Build a 5-man back line. That kills in MLS.
Is
Toronto's
Basti a
done
part of it?
Atlanta's done it. All the best teams in MLS have a 5-man
Is
back
Basti a
line.
part of that back line?
Here's the thing: we only have 1 center back on this team. You can't play
Exactly.
You can't play a formation that requires 3 center backs. I mean, you need you need a lot of depth in that position and people that can play. So you cry 3 instead of 2. So I mean, I really think that they got to stick to the 2 center back system.
As ideal.
But either way, going back to the question, they need fullbacks. They need outside wingbacks, outside fullbacks.
You got Hasler and Raheem
Edwards and Corrales, and that's not good enough.
I completely forgot about Hasler. He's like such a non-factor to me.
He's a nice depth guy, but I mean, again, think about Brandon Vincent and Matt Polster. The year that they went to the playoffs were so influential with those, their two-way ability being on offense and defense, playing those early balls, and just they had tons of assists. I think they had 6-7 assists apiece, and they really helped out this Fire on team on defense and offense. So they really need to get 2 new fullbacks as well that they can count on, and those just don't grow on trees.
We're forgetting the biggest thing here, also part of his question, goalkeeper. We can't enter this league again with Sanchez in Cleveland unless they think, okay, maybe that last year was more than enough time. Maybe they're good enough this year.
We have, once again, I think I said this before, we have a bunch of backup goalkeepers. We had a great goalkeeper before, and we decided, no, he's losing us games apparently. No, he's winning for NYCFC now. Mm-hmm. We mentioned a fourth-round draft pick.
John Johnson.
We have had a single good fourth-round draft pick in our entire history. John Johnson.
It's unreal. What a horrible waste.
Yeah.
But, of course, to get something for nothing.
And then Gutman and Polster leave, like we said. So outside back is a huge hole. And we said this earlier. Center back, who are they going to pair next to Marcelo? That's another huge gaping hole. And they have to fill that with, maybe it's Kapelhoff, but they at least have to have 2 new in my eyes, 2 center backs that can play in that spot with competition.
If Ojeda comes and is on that left side, at least you got Ojeda and Katai and Nikolic as your offense, which sounds pretty decent.
And what are those 2 new guys as subs? Martinez
and one of those, that'd be a
Uranga.
decent sub. Yeah, and those are some great subs. So actually, on offensive end, we're looking pretty decent, or at least somewhat okay, serviceable. But in the back line, it really needs a lot of help. The entire back line and goalie, especially, like we said. 2019 Breakout Player of the Year. Who's our prediction for 2019?
Does Mo start? No.
Well, does Mo start? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the first one I read. 2019 Breakout Player of the Year. Wow, it's hard to suggest that when we only have 8 players.
That we're going to be bringing in, because whoever is here right now, we know who the good players of the players who are here are.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to get anybody.
Lillard, Georgie. I mean, do you think Brent Bronico can get better than he played last year? Is there another level there? Because he was pretty solid at times. But again, it's really hard to say give our guess, because we only have 8-9 guys in this roster. But I want to go back to Mo Adams. Mo is really good defensively. You can see he was a defensive-minded player. My only problem with him is he wasn't really positive with the ball when he had it at his feet. He would always go backwards. And so when he did try to go forward or positive, he didn't really connect. And so his build of play wasn't there. So he really has to improve that.
Logan Paws, Captain Back Pass.
Logan. Captain Back Pass. But yeah, and then you have Georgie, like we said, Georgie, Schweinsteiger, Bronico, and Dax McCarty. So that's a lot of center mids that could play there. Hassler could play there too. So I don't know if Mo will.
Is Georgie your Cam going forward? Probably. And if Dax and Basti are starting that midfield, where does Bronico go?
Do we still have Cap?
We don't have Cap at the moment, but they're working on a deal with him, but it's really unknown whether or not they're working on a deal to trade him for some reason. Which
I don't think he'll be back. I'd love to have him back. Actually, I don't know anymore, because I want us to give in to the rebuild. We need to genuinely say we're not going to win this year, and that's okay. We need to go forward and do something else. But the other problem with it is that we do need to win this year because of all of the fans who are about to leave at this point because of how dumb Nelson Rodriguez has done everything.
Well, that's why I kind of am optimistic. I mean, like I said, he really has to hit on a lot of these players, but he has to put in some money. He has to acquire some talent. He knows that. There's some pressure to do so. So that's, I guess, why I'm slightly optimistic. But you never know. If he hits on everything again, that's a lot to ask for. But
if we're replacing Pano halfway through the season, though, what's going to be happening then?
That's if they have a bad start.
And that's the other thing, that he's electing to go forward with Pano. He's electing to bring back this guy who has not had great success in MLS, is possibly the least successful MLS coach with the amount of games he's had, and is being rewarded with another contract.
Yeah. Anyways.
I think that, I mean, it is going to be hard to replace Nelson Rodriguez, and not because, he's so great. It's because who wants to come here?
This is a dumpster fire.
Schweinsteiger, who wants to remain invisible and raise a kid and still play soccer and get the winters off. And
that's
like him.
Why he wants it. That's why he wants to stay in Chicago. That's the only reason, I think, because he just likes being here. He's not here to win a trophy. I am going to officially announce my candidacy to be the next GM of the Chicago Fire. If they can't find anybody, I'm willing.
Well, Jigs, I think we're going to sign off here soon, but I want to talk about this. You just started working for MLS Multiplex, correct?
So Jiggly's up for GM now, folks. Definitely, if you're looking to hire Hotman or
Manfredo. We're not asking Hotman anymore.
He's definitely better than Nelson.
Anyways, Jigs, tell us about this new gig you got.
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to be writing. I've got a potential series coming out in February. I'm going to be covering the draft all the way throughout, January. I'm going to get some help from other people with trying to figure out a mock draft because I only focus on the Fire, so I have no clue what the other team's needs are. Mm-hmm. But I'm hopefully going to be covering the rest of the draft. I might be able to make it to the convention. Who knows?
Cool.
But
wow. Good for you, man. That's awesome. That's really cool.
The draft itself, I believe, is free to get in to watch, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
people
you-
can attend and say and shout something at Nelson potentially, but
Yeah,
probably get
Nel-
removed.
Nelson, shake up the soccer world, boys.
Or just have the Wenger out shirt or something.
Well, like you said,
Nelson
you're already scared going into this draft to see what the Fire do. But any last closing comments for you, James or Jakes?
We got a closing question. Georgi Mihailovic being called up to the U.S. men's national team. How important is that for the Fire? How important
It
is
means
that to
nothing
the
for the Fire. It actually means possibly bad things with him being sent overseas.
Or hurt, or being
We're
sold.
screwed.
But I guess in the long term, it's good.
In the long term, it's good.
It's for Georgie.
It's great for
Good for
Georgie.
the club, but
It's great
also the
for
risk that
Georgie.
you can lose him.
But
or
here's the
something.
thing: MLS system is really not set up for success in the transfer market like that because you only get if they sell him, they only keep like a portion, 25% or something of the transfer fee that they're allowed to put back into the roster. The rest of that money they get to do something with. I don't know, it gets to go to MLS or they get to keep it, but they don't get to really spend it back on the club so much. Or they could use it as part of their next transfer fee to go get another guy, like what Atlanta's doing. So there are ways to use it and ways to have success. Really, this buying young guys and selling them when they get better process should have been started years ago. Of course.
Yeah. What if
But
like,
it doesn't do good things for teams. It doesn't win you championships. I mean,
Yes.
it won Atlanta a championship, but they haven't sold them yet. When they
Exactly.
sell them,
Two
that's
MLS
going to be the
teams-
problem.
Two MLS
How does that
teams
work?
with 4 DPs right now.
How does that work? How does that work with like what if an owner says, "Hey, I want to buy these guys out of my own pocket," and they splurge 15 mil, which is just hypothetical, and they sell them.
They designated player.
They have to be a DP because it has to do with the salary and the amount of money you pay on the
Yeah,
transfer
it's
fee.
who knows. I don't know.
And two teams have 4 DPs right now, and MLS was even just talking about last year about reducing the DPs. Really, we were talking about it. A lot of these roster rules, they need to have a group mind change about all these roster rules, change the DP, change the TAM GAM things, and really loosen up these rules to make it internationally competitive so the Fire aren't losing Gutman and Polster to Scotland, where they can promise them first team time and a good visibility here so that they could, and a platform to get to Europe from here.
Yeah. All right, cool. I think we'll end it here. Jigs, good luck. Have a great new year. Thanks for being on, and it's nice to see you getting picked up by MLS Multiplex fan side. So it's cool. Good luck with that.
Hopefully, I know that there was this big thing on Twitter earlier about like me wanting to make a documentary. I'd love to do that, but there's really no resources for me to do it and like,
Time,
no access
money.
to players. But I am definitely going to be trying to write something throughout the season and trying to capture that sort of feeling.
Oh, all right, I'll give us your couple-minute elevator pitch real quick before we sign off here for what you're talking about with this documentary.
If you want to.
Basically, my whole idea with it is to try to basically look at the team from the multiple perspectives that we see in Sunderland Until I Die, which is, the fan side, which is, why is this team so horrible? I'm blaming the owner, to the team side, which is, we're struggling to try to do something to try to alleviate this. And I think the biggest part to me is that I want to do it in a sort of way that, like, I want to do it for this season specifically because this season means nothing, and this season has nothing going for it. If we win, that's weird. If we lose, that's normal. But we have a ton of stuff off the field with 3-101. We've got so much going on that it would be amazing to try to just watch that happen.
I think you got a great point there. Sunderland Till I Die is this new Netflix documentary. I believe Jeffrey and Jiggles have seen it.
I've only watched like the first 2 episodes, but it was great.
But I think that's a great idea and a great vein, and I think that'd be awesome to bring to it. I think you have a great idea there, Jigs. Netflix, you should get on this. This is the perfect season to get the Fire on that because it's a sink or swim season, and that's really what it was for the Sunderland Till I Die. But you know what? The nice thing, I don't know if you guys have finished it. I haven't finished it, but we know the Sunderland story coming forward now. We know reality, and you'd like to think that Sunderland they're actually having some success in their season now.
I think they're capped at League One.
Yes, but
They're in League One. They got relegated.
Yeah. But they're now in the top 5.
That documentary that was so great is that they captured this complete moment of chaos.
Oh yeah, that's what
at the beginning of the season they expected something completely different than what happened. They grabbed gold basically by picking that season, and I feel like this is the season. If you want any MLS team in any season, this is the season to watch a team do something weird.
Dude, you gotta start tweeting this out or something to sell it. Or
Yeah,
get an NDA or
GoFundMe.
something, 'cause
GoFundMe.
This is definitely a good idea.
Yeah, get that
like
going.
it. We like
Get that
it.
GoFundMe going.
It's
Anyways,
a bit late now, so I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
Start
try
now.
to write about it.
Start now.
Anyways, thanks for watching,
Thanks for
guys.
coming on, Big
Thanks
League.
for your questions. Thanks, Jigs.
Thanks for
And
watching.
yeah, go Fire and
Fire it up.
have a great New Year, everyone.
Happy
and
New Year. Happy
hopefully
holidays.
there's some acquisitions in the next week or two, and we'll see where the Fire go from here. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Any last words there, Jigs?
Any last words?
They saved the crew, so we can hate them again.
Oh, the crew picked up Joe Bendick for their goalkeeper too, by the way.
Bendick.
Potential player for the Fire. But I know that some people are saying that we shouldn't have picked him up because he's, he was fading. He got replaced last year. All right, boys and girls, toss us a like if you enjoyed the conversation. Hit that bell icon so you guys could stay subscribed and know when we have our live streams. And we'll see you guys later for next time. Spitting Fire. Later.
Yeah, dude.